Welcome, everyone. I'm Kimberly Boscheman, and this is the Intentionally Intuitive Podcast. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the numerology and the energy for both the collective and the individual life path numbers for March 2022. As with all of these monthly videos, it's very important that you listen to the part for the collective because we are each a part of the collective. And that energy is what's really going to be potent during this time. And so it ties in with your individual life path number. That's why I don't put timestamps. This, of course, is a general reading. If you would like a personalized reading, please book some time with me. My information is in the description box below. I have also just recently started offering one-to-one, face-to-face over Zoom life path coaching with numerology. If this is something that you're interested in, this is an opportunity for a 1-hour session where we dive in deeply into your numerology chart to discuss anything you want to discuss that you're currently facing or that may be coming up for the future for you. If that's something that you're interested in, just book some time with me. I would absolutely love to meet you face-to-face and to work with you in that way. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at the energies for March. So March ushers in the universal cycle of the 9 energy. During this cycle, we can find that we're able to think more abstractly and not quite so rigidly when it comes to our belief systems and how we move through the world. 9 energy is that of the humanitarian. It's an energy that honors self while also bringing in service towards others. So by opening our minds and our hearts, we can begin to see things from a broader perspective where greater, more elevated solutions lie. Aligned 9 energy sets out to bring people together with an emphasis on equality and justice for all. It's an energy of no one being left behind because if someone is struggling, ultimately we're all struggling in some way. So where we can find ways to coexist while doing no harm, then we're able to be a part of the greater circle. If one is being pushed out from that circle, it creates a gap that in one way or another, we all end up feeling, especially energetically. So 9 energetic cycles help us to find ways to do our individual part for the greater good, for the collective, and to bridge the gap, which I think now more than ever, we could use this energy. So it's beautiful energy, especially for March, especially for this time in history. So definitely work with it the best that you can throughout the month and always, but it's very potent this month. This is also a completion cycle, so it can indicate attainment, things coming to fruition from past efforts, such as rewards, earnings, return of investments. This is going to be a situation where you've put in the effort previously and now you're seeing those things again coming to fruition or coming to closure, and it can be closure that's abrupt or it can be closure that you're just kind of tying up that bow really nicely and moving on to the next thing. It can also indicate things falling away so that new seeds can begin to grow, creating a greater foundation for your future cycles. Similar to when we sort of lose our baby teeth as children so that our adult teeth can come in, shedding what no longer works or no longer supports us for something that does. Though this isn't the best energy for sort of starting anything big or new, it's more of a time for setting the intentions and making the preparations for this cycle to begin, right? So this cycle can feel somewhat busier than normal with a lot of added responsibilities being added to your plate. You can see a tremendous amount of inspirations and ideas, psychic and intuitive downloads coming in for you now. Pay extra attention to your dreams at this time and any kind of, again, visions that you have, ideas, inspirations. Now, this isn't necessarily, like I said, this isn't the cycle where we would necessarily take action on those inspirations or those big ideas. Although, we have to go with what comes up for us. So if life dictates that you need to take action, then take action. Don't let this sort of prevent you from doing that. But this isn't the most supportive energy for big ideas taking root when we take action on them just yet. This is the time for the sort of the incubation period, the ideas coming in, sort of exploration of those ideas and those inspirations, and maybe planning and deciding how we want to take action on these ideas. And then in the months that follow, then taking those big risks, those big inspired action, right? So this is going to be a time again to really sink into the more ethereal, sink into the inspirations, the ideas, the dreams. The dreams are going to be coming in very vividly, very strongly for those of you that are especially sensitive to that. You could notice that, again, your intuitive powers are even stronger during this time. You could notice that, again, your psychic powers are much more profound at this time, much more vivid. So pay attention to that. A lot of times that can hold messages. So we just need to be open to it, take note of it, and then revisit it down the road if we need to. So this is not going to be a cycle where self-serving or overly self-indulgent endeavors be supported. Instead, broad compassion, kindness, understanding, and more evolved actions are the ones that will gain the most traction. Friendships and relationships of all kinds can prosper and grow during this time, especially those that hold a similar vision for the greater good. So pay attention to who enters your sphere at this time, your reality, your experience, or who re-enters your life now. They could play a key role in the journey ahead. So be open to who you meet and the messages that they hold and the wisdom that they've come to share. This could be very important for your journey forward. Be mindful not to sort of cling to or get overly attached to experiences, people, or emotions that have run their course and that need to be released. Replaying events or stories in your head only to beat yourself up with them aren't allowing you to move forward into a sort of greener pastures, right? We may need to sort of shovel the manure every now and then, but we certainly don't need to sit in it. So extract the wisdom, release the person, place, or thing with an open heart and with gratitude for their contribution, and move along. There is much more adventure to be had beyond the self-created gates that we often create for ourselves, right? Release that stagnant energy and look forward to the future with joy and high expectation for what awaits you around the next corner, for what you'll create from these big ideas, these big dreams, these big inspirations that could be coming in for you during this cycle. This is incredibly beautiful, ethereal, creative energy, and just a time again for exploration on the softer side of things. So definitely embrace it to the best of your ability. Again, the energy can be present. It's always what we choose to do with it that makes the difference. Okay, on to the life path number. Life path number 2. So I pulled an animal spirit card for you all, and you got armadillo spirit. And this really ties in quite significantly with the energies that are present for 2s throughout March. So Armadillo's message is set healthy boundaries. And I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on Armadillo's message because I'll incorporate it in the overall energy for the month for you all, because I think it's very, very relevant. But ultimately, the message is just asking you to pay attention to where it is that maybe you need to have some more of a difficult conversation with somebody to let them know that they've crossed a boundary, that maybe they don't even know that it's a boundary. And so maybe you need to have a conversation to let them know what that boundary is so that they can, respect it. But there's something here about valuing yourself enough to be able to know your limitations, know what, when to say yes, when to say no, not saying yes strictly out of the need to please others or to, sort of squash any conflict or whatever. Sometimes we have to move through the conflict to be able to set those boundaries, right? So I think this is going to be an important month for you all, just to really stand back, take a closer look at where it is that you cross your own boundaries, right? And then you get upset when the other person doesn't seem to respect you or takes advantage of you or doesn't respect your boundaries. But have you had the conversation with that person? If you have had the conversation with that person, well, let me back up. Have you had the conversation with that person And are you respecting your own boundaries? So if you are putting a boundary in place that says, I'm just using this as an example, but I'm not available after 5 p.m. during the week, right? But then you answer your emails or respond to messages after 5 p.m. You're sending mixed messages. You're saying, I'm not available, but then you feel compelled to be available. You see what I'm saying? So you're not respecting your own boundaries. So there's really this key here to, first and foremost, figure out what your boundaries are, right? And we're talking about healthy boundaries. We're not talking about obviously building walls that don't need to be there, that are just sort of like quote unquote, protecting your heart from getting hurt or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And not putting yourself out there to interact with people, whatever, right? We're talking about healthy boundaries where it's like, okay, I would love to do this for you, but I am not physically, mentally, emotionally at capacity to be able to do this for you. So I have to say no. Thank you for understanding. I need to have an hour a day for self-care, and then adhering to those boundaries and expecting people to respect them is a healthy boundary. So again, I just think that this is going to be a month for you all to really take a closer look at those, again, what those boundaries need to be for you. And then respecting your own boundaries, right? Adhering to them, because we show others how to treat us by the way we treat ourselves. So respecting your own boundaries and then having the conversation with people that you need to have the conversation with to put those boundaries in place. And if somebody is not respecting those boundaries and you've had a conversation with them, then that may be a person that needs to not be such a significant part of your life right now, right? Until they can respect those boundaries, just as you are meant to respect their boundaries. So I think this is going to be a big month for you all to, again, put yourself first in the way that you are really stepping into self-care through those boundaries. Okay, so this is going to be just based on the energy. And again, this is a general reading, so it's not going to be this way for everyone, and the energy may not show up this way for everyone, but this is potentially going to be a little bit of a rocky road in March for twos. And that's only because there's a lot of energy. Obviously it comes back to your, how you choose to work with the energy, because you can shift things. A lot of this is self-inflicted. But I think there's going to be some challenges this month. Let's put it that way. So starting off the month for you all, there's definitely this call for inner strength. There's going to be situations potentially where you have to pull from your inner strength, whether that's picking yourself up after you've fallen, biting your tongue and not getting involved in something, again, that's not your chaos, not getting involved in conflict that has nothing to do with you really, right? Not getting in conflict over something that has to do with you, right? Like being sort of the bigger person in the situation while not compromising or self-sacrificing yourself, still owning, still stepping into your truth, but not entertaining the chaos, the conflict. A lot coming in beginning of the month. And really, I think it's a theme throughout the month for you all for March to really come back to your inner strength, to take that higher road every time that you can do it this month. And it's going to take a lot of resiliency. It's going to take a lot of personal strength to be able to do that in some of these situations, depending on what it is that you're facing. But that's where you're going to extract the wisdom. That's where you're going to learn the most through the tests and the challenges. So just pull from your inner strength as much as possible. Be the bigger person as much as possible. Again, that does not mean being a doormat. You can set healthy boundaries, and then you get to choose what it is that you participate in. So just be mindful of that. Mid-month, this is interesting because there's this energy of like something coming to completion that's been quite a struggle for you. Something maybe you've been really grappling with, again, body, mind, spirit. There's something here about, this could go two ways. So there's something here about something coming to completion or ending, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's not time just yet for this to happen, but you can kind of see it coming to fruition, coming to completion. But there's also something here about the energy saying, don't give up just yet. on whatever this is. If you still feel called to complete it, to move through, to move through it, then don't give up on it. Whatever it is, whatever the vision was, whatever the goal was, don't give up on it just yet, because you're almost there is basically the energy. But there's also this energy of some kind of challenge coming up for you, and it almost feels like you're constantly getting challenges around whatever this is. And this is the sort of the month where it's like you need to decide, do I continue along or do I move in a different direction? And if you're thinking you want to move in a different direction, give yourself permission to do that. No matter how much time you've invested into whatever this is, no matter, how emotionally invested, financially invested, whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes or 5 years. If you feel that you no longer feel the call to pursue whatever this is, it doesn't feel aligned anymore, you're simply doing it because of everything you've sort of invested into it, it's okay to turn a corner and go a different direction. It doesn't matter. You've gotten what you need to get out of this. You don't have to make the summit. It's kind of like in Colorado, we say the summit will always be there. So it's like if we're hiking to a summit in summer, and typically, you have to be back down to tree line by like 1 or 2, right? Because storms usually roll in around that time. And Colorado has, I think, some of the most amount of deaths by lightning strike. So it's kind of like that ego that's like, oh man, I made it this far. I can see the summit. I'm going to get there. But it's like, you can see the storm coming in too, but you keep moving on up towards summit because of ego. You want to make the summit. And you're putting yourself in danger, So the key component here is to understand, okay, well, that summit's going to be there. So let me turn around, go back home and do this another day where I can get an earlier start or whatever. It's that same mentality. So no matter what it is that you've invested all this time and energy into, if it's not healthy, body, mind, or spirit anymore, it's not calling to you, whatever the case may be, it is okay to turn around. It's okay to change direction and move in a different direction. Don't beat yourself up for that. It's almost like, because if it's not meant for you, you're just going to keep facing those challenges. It's just going to be so incredibly exhausting and draining. And yeah, so that could go, like I said, either way. Also, there's this energy of delegating, of not feeling like you have to do everything you're on your own. This is a big one as well with those setting healthy boundaries, asking for help where you need it, and then receiving that help openly. You can do it yourself, but it's not going to be as easy or as comfortable doing it yourself. So this is going to be a month, I think, where you're going to need to ask for help. You're going to have to ask for others to support you. And, if you want to sort of lighten the load, because it's almost like you've got, again, sort of that very stubborn energy of like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right, and I'm going to do it by myself. But it's a struggle. So it's kind of like that energy again, where it's like, know your limitations. And it's not like you can't do it, you'll do it. But again, why put yourself through that when you could just ask for help? This is a month where with 9 energy, universally, where people are willing and able to help others, right? This is going to be an energy where it's just very supportive. So take advantage of that and ask for help. End of the month for you all, there's something here around self-restriction. So where is it in your life that you want to take a leap of faith, you want to do something new, you want to change course, you want to change direction, but you're restricting yourself? Whether that's through self-doubt, what you're telling yourself, overburdening yourself, right? Like, oh, I can't do that thing that I want to do because I've already committed to these 12 things for other people that I don't really want to do. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's really like this energy of like starting to get resentful of all of these things. And again, they're kind of like perceived ideas of like what it is you think you need to do. When in reality, it's just all in the head. It's all in the mind. It's stories you're telling yourself that's restricting yourself. So there's just this message of like, take a closer look at whatever this restriction is. And is it really as restrictive as you're making it out to be? Is there a way around it? I think chances are there is. And part of that could be if you've committed to something, but you don't really want to do it, you don't have the time or the energy to do it, go back to that person and have that conversation. That is okay. Lose the pride, right? Lose the ego when it comes to this, and just have the conversation with the person and be like, I can't do this. I'm sorry I committed to this, but I just cannot. Thank you for understanding. If in the future, if I can do it, I will certainly do so. But at this point in time, whatever. So you may be called to have that conversation. And that will free up time, space, and energy for you to be able to do the things that you need to do, want to do, that you feel more called to do and more aligned to do. And that will lift the resentment, right? Lift that anger, that frustration. A lot of times we get resentful, we get angry at other people, but we had the power to say no in that situation, and we didn't. And so we took on more than we needed to take on. So again, boundaries are going to be huge for you all this month, and really setting those boundaries, and even like revisiting boundaries that maybe you set before, but then you didn't respect and now other people aren't respecting. It really needs to kind of come back into view, and those conversations need to be had. So hopefully this was helpful. I think this is going to be a challenging month in that it's going to ask you to pull from inner strength. It's going to ask you to have those difficult conversations, to recognize your own worth and value, and like what you'll put up with and what you won't, and to use your voice. So I hope this was helpful too. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, everyone. Bye for now.